Hey everybody, it's me, Megan Kerstetter, and welcome to my art channel. Today I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who supported me through YouTube, and all of you guys have been so amazing. My subscribers, those who have liked my video. I think my Draw YouTuber video has actually reached almost 10,000 views, which is phenomenally mind-blowing to me. I also want to let you guys know that the coloring page for the image is currently up, and you can find a link to both the JPEG and PNG in the description below. And remember, if you post your finished colored page to social media, I'd love to see it. As for today's video, I'm actually going to be working on a contest entry for Jazza's Challenge of the Month. This month's challenge is to take one of his original line arts and put your own spin on how it would be colored. If you guys haven't heard of Jazza, I recommend you go check out his channel here. He's a super talented artist, and if you're looking for some top-notch drawing resources, his channel is great for both the beginner and the seasoned artist. During the speed art, I'll explain my thoughts and the steps I took to achieve the finished picture, as well as how I put my own spin on the original image. Alright, let's get started. To begin, I put the flat colors down, and this time I decided to split the layers into 4 different sections. Each character has its own base layer, and the foreground, background, and sky were each put on their own separate layers as well. I previously worked on a set of thumbnails to figure out the color scheme of the piece, and you can see the one I chose to the left of the actual image. One of the rules to the contest is to use color in a creative and emotionally portraying way. Since I wanted to make the image have a certain mood, I worked with a color scheme I felt portrayed a sense of sadness and the supernatural. I stuck mostly to the sides of the color wheel with desaturated yellows, greens, and blue-greens. The complementary color is meant to be purple, but I also added some blue to give the ghost girl a more interesting and ghostly appearance. You can see that as I'm working on the image, I'm playing with this idea that the ghost girl's tears would float down around the man. At one point, I wanted her tears to look like they were floating down to his heart, or somehow shielding him from the rain. Ultimately, I scrapped this idea because I felt it made the image too busy and didn't really enhance the piece. I got a lot of inspiration on how to do the ghost girl from watching another YouTuber I know named Danica Sills. Danica has this beautiful way of making watercolor washes with traditional paint, and I wanted to see if I could bring that effect into a digital piece. Now, if you haven't seen her work, you should definitely follow the link in the description. On her channel, you can see how to work effectively in both watercolor and Photoshop, as well as how she integrates her knowledge of both to make elegant characters and illustrations. After I got the ghost girl to a point I liked color-wise, I start to play with how I want the sky to look in the background. Alright, so I'm going to tell the truth here and say I don't have much painting experience when it comes to clouds. The idea of it seems so easy until I'm actually doing the painting, so I ended up hopping on the net and looking through some quick tutorials as well as finding some cloud reference that I liked. After some trial and error, I found that I wanted to enhance the focal point on the ghost girl by having the clouds circle around her. In the end, I don't think I got the sky anywhere close to perfect, but I was satisfied with the end result. I start to work more on the mood of the piece by adding something completely different from the original image. Using a scatter brush, I put down some light desaturated blue dots and then put them through a directional blur filter. This is a quick way to create the look of rain, and to me it feels very effective. So, random bit of information. I actually avoided looking at Jazza's finished picture of this until I had gotten the palette and background exactly how I wanted to portray them. When I did go to look at his image, I saw that we went in completely opposite directions. Whereas my image has storm clouds and rain, his actually has the city being torn apart by fire and filled with smoke. I'd purposefully not looked at his picture because I hadn't wanted my idea for the image to be overly influenced by the original. I feel like this worked really well in my favor, and I think it's really cool how different the same piece can be by changing the environment around the characters. To tie the characters in with the new rainy atmosphere I'd created, I painted water droplets on the characters and objects. I also found that using my watercolor-like brush, I could put in a mist that represented water hitting different objects. I continue to put in shadows with the brush as well as use a soft brush to create some interesting lighting. I also play a bit with the colors until I get them to where I want. Something I thought would be interesting to add to the story of the image is that when the man had to make the cross for his lost love, he actually took a ribbon from her belongings to tie it together. I also imagined that her favorite color was violet, and so I made the roses and ribbon that color, as well as added a bit of it to her appearance. This little story idea tugs at my heartstrings and makes me feel an even greater sense of grief for the man. Okay, back to talking about the artwork itself. I use my rough ink brush to make the drips of water and then go in with my paintbrush and erase the beginnings of the little streams. I feel like this gives the water a more natural look, and I always like it when I can use one of my brushes in a simple but effective way. As I was painting, I wanted the ghost girl to be the focal point, and this worked out really well by making her the main light source of the image. Of course, having a character be an actual light source can be very tricky because if they're glowing, where exactly do you put the shadows on their form? Generally, I put in basic soft shading to give the figure more definition, and then some more defined shadows in places like the folds in the clothes. At this point, I did take a look at Jazza's original artwork to help me out a bit, and eventually I did get the shadows how I wanted them to look. Another thing I put in to add interest to the image is to have the glow from the ghost girl affect the man. I use another layer to put down a pale purple glow that's hitting him from behind. I like to think that maybe he's going to turn around and see the ghost of his love and be allowed to say a final farewell. This kind of makes me feel a little better when I think of the story I had come up with before. Do any of you try to imagine stories for pieces of artwork you look at or work on? I usually do this when I'm making an image of my own, but I thought it was really interesting I was getting this small story idea while I was working on someone else's illustration. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on the idea in the comments below. To finish the illustration, I go in to do the last of the cell-like shading with my rough ink brush. I think these shadows really sell the look I'm trying to achieve, and I like this style of painting because, in my opinion, it's looser and calls back to a more traditional way of working. And that pretty much wraps up this illustration, guys. If any of you are interested in joining this month's challenge, you can follow a link in the description below, or click the link to Jazza's channel at the end of this video. The contest is split into two different categories, one for more experienced artists and another for beginners. Some of the prizes for the two contests include the Huion GT156 HD V2 digital display drawing tablet for the more experienced category, and the Huion H95 OP digital drawing tablet for the beginner category. There are also other prizes, as well as a runners-up category and a Community's Choice Prize for the Huion Inspire G1 OT digital drawing tablet. I'm aiming for the digital display tablet so I can have something I can draw with outside of my home. Alright, that's it. You guys are awesome, and thank you so much for watching this video. Remember, if you liked watching this, hit the thumbs up button, or even better yet, subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I can't wait to see you later.